Hey, I'm Adam Cook. Welcome to the Bite Britain podcast, a show dedicated to interviewing the most successful restaurant owners in the UK, learning about what goes into their incredible menus, but more importantly, what it takes to run the successful restaurant in this day and age. In this episode, I talked to the UK's queen of burgers, Annie Spaziano. Annie is an American-born restaurateur who made her mark in the UK when she started her venture into the UK's burger industry. Annie has gone from humble beginnings of almost losing her business before she'd even started it, but went on to build a growing chain of free burger restaurants in the UK's Midlands. She has an incredible story of how she almost missed her shot and has one of the most exciting burger menus in the UK. Her eye for detail in her restaurants really shines through, and her vision to focus on beer as well as burgers has proved an unsurprising hit. Annie's warm personality really shone through in this interview, and it was an absolute pleasure to have her on the podcast. So without further delay, let's get to it. Okay, so today I welcome the person behind Annie's Burger Shack. Not surprisingly, she's called Annie. For those of you that don't know, Annie's Burger Shack is a chain of 3 burger restaurants and 3 houses located in their flagship location in Nottingham, as well as holding locations in Derby and Worcester. There's many things that separate, I think, Annie's from the crowd of burger restaurants that I think we see lining the high streets. I mean, we're going to get into most of those, but one of the most important ones for me, certainly for many other beer drinkers as well, is that Annie's is a free house serving an array of selected real ales to enjoy at their bar. So whether you want a top-notch burger in a distinct location, a relaxing beer after work, or all of the above in my case, then this sort of concept is going to be right up your street. But as well as getting into the amazing food and drink, we're also going to talk a lot about what actually goes into this as a business behind the scenes, what it actually takes to build a brand like this. So Annie, welcome to the show. Could you start by just sort of telling us a little bit more about you personally, and then give us a bit more of an insight perhaps into this incredible concept?
Yeah. Well, obviously I'm American. I came over here about 24 years ago, well, 1994. So yeah, it's been quite a while. And so I've lived now technically more than half my life living here. I'm just on that teetering just over the edge of half my life living in Britain. And about 11 years ago, I did a cookie business. And obviously anybody who does bakeries or cookies or anything like that knows how incredibly hard and it take, the hours that it takes to do. And it just didn't quite work out. And I took all my cookies at the last day, brought it into my local pub, which was the Old Angel at the time, threw it on the bar, and it was like, that's it, can't take it anymore. And there was the landlord behind the bar, and there was like a friend that was at the end of it and stuff. And I was like, just give the cookies to everybody. It used to be called World's Cookies, because I used to do cookies from around the world, and I'd use like organic cocoa, and I'd do it, but it was very, very tough. Anyway, so I just literally had no idea what to do with myself at that point. I was like, literally, there was one of those things where, as people know with businesses, with startup, you'd be working 80 hours a week and everything. And then at the end, you'd find out that you were enslaved to, you were paying the business to employ you,
Yes, it can be like that.
It definitely can get like that. So, while I was at the bar, I just, the woman at the end of the bar, she was like, what are you going to do now? And I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do at this point. And she looked over at Shone, the landlord, and she was like, well, Shone, what's going on in the kitchen? And now this is just a little rock and roll punky bar that's in the center of town. It's not big or anything like that. And, the landlord was like, literally shrugging his shoulders. Nobody was really doing anything with it. And he's like, I don't know. And so I just looked around the pub, and I'm just kind of like, well, I'll do it, you know. And he was like, yeah, fine. You know, that was probably like, that was the answer. And immediately as I was looking around, I just was like, oh gosh, this town, this England in general, it just needs a good burger, you know? Because that, I mean, it really was. I mean, now everybody does burgers, everybody does barbecue, everybody does, you know, everybody does all that. But at that time, it was still the carpet burger that you would have gotten at, you know, and some sort of, somewhere that would have been made of 90% beef heart and breadcrumbs. And you know what I mean? Like, this is what I was at. And I've lived here long enough and I'm going, oh, I just want a good burger, like a really nice one. And, because it had a lot of brick and it had a lot of wood, it had that American sort of rock and roll feeling to it anyway. And ended up going home. 3:00 in the morning, I literally sat up and my eyes were like, oh my gosh, I've got a kitchen. I've got a kitchen. I've got a kitchen to myself. Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is how exciting. Amazing feeling. Wow. Oh, it was so exciting. And literally I just got to work right from there. And so I'm like, oh, okay, so I want to do burgers and stuff. And I literally just started doing burgers. And I got up to about 65 different burgers, right? So American, you know? I'm like 65 different burgers.
So was it an easy decision to say sort of, right, that's going to be, it has to be burgers? Is that like your thing, or is that something that you just think just
it was purely because, yeah, I mean, literally it's purely because nobody was doing any good burgers and I happened to be in the mood for one at the time.
Well, that's that, yeah. Like, if you're your own customer, then that's a great business, right? You understand.
Yeah, exactly. And there was literally nothing going on. And like, you know, and it wasn't like I had to think it out. I had to go, oh, well, no, this is what England. No, it was literally just like from the heart, just going, oh God, you know what I could just kill for, you know? And you know, I grew up literally where the first ever diner started. I grew up in Rhode Island. I can talk about that later. But like, you know, when you grew up from these old school restaurants, that this is, you know, that's what I missed, was that sort of old school burger, like American cheeseburger.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not even that big. They were quite small, but they were just really cheesy and greasy, you know.
Yeah. So you kind of got a nice sort of ratio of cheese to beef and
perfect ratio. Somehow they just used to know how to do it. We know how to make fast food good.
Yeah, that's so
and it was like, you know, and that was pretty much it. I went home. I was like, right, okay. And I started writing out all these burgers and everything like that. I was so excited. I did about 65. I managed to get 45 down. It took me 2 days, no sleeping, so excited. I had no money. I was literally practically like, you know, I was like literally like right at like literally nothing, you know, like it was, you know, I had to write a check out to get a pack of ramen noodles, you know.
Yeah.
As business starters tend to be.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you've got to be in these positions. It makes you do those crazy things, you know.
Yeah, that's it. You get really creative when you don't have much. And then, so I was all excited. I had all my papers. I ran back to the pub, right, and went in. And there was a couple of lasses behind the bar at the time. And I was like, look at the menu. And they saw the menu. And they were like, wow, this is amazing. I did 45. I broke it down to 45. And they were just looking through and they were going, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is amazing. And she turned and she looked at me. She goes, I'm really sorry. Sean gave the kitchen away to Gilly. And I was like, what? I was like, but why? He said I could have it. And so the guy what he does is he goes into a bunch of like cheap pub restaurants. He sets up like pie and chips for £4 and, you know, 2 for a tenner breakfast sort of type thing. Yeah. And with knowing full well how excited I was, he just gave it to him instead. So I was gutted. I was like, you're kidding, like after all that work and everything like that. And
yeah. I mean, that must have really been a blow, right?
Oh, you're just like, you know, but because the menu, they loved the menu. The 2 kids behind the bar, there were the 2 lasses, Jess and Hannah, they saw the menu and they were like, no, screw this. No, we love this menu too much. Annie, you have got to stay here. And the landlord
brought it back.
It pulled back, man. It did.
Oh,
What
wow.
happened was.
What a roller coaster, though. God.
Oh man, I'm telling you, emotions were just all over the shop. And it was funny. They took the menu and they said, Annie, you stay here because we're gonna go and we're gonna tell the landlord, who was sleeping off a hangover upstairs in his flat. They said they went upstairs. Well, now he's a pretty scary guy. It was not the typical kind of nice landlord. He was a typical grumpy landlord.
That's
And
like
they went up. That's a much more of a typical landlord. Yeah. And they took the paper upstairs, and I couldn't believe it because it was so brave of them, and I owe it all to them. They were just like, you have to take Annie's menu, and if you don't, we will not work the rest of the shift tonight.
Wow, protest.
Yeah. Protest for me. It was really nice. So they came back downstairs, and they were like, okay, I have no idea what's going to happen. And, with my 11 years ago, our phones were a little bit chunkier. I'm like, I felt like Charlie Brown leaving, like, and we're kind of walking away with my head down, like thinking this was it. Nothing's going to happen out of it. And this text message comes through, and it's from the landlord, and he said, you better do a good job. And that was it.
That was it. Oh, wow.
And I was like, back up again. And I was like, I will, I run up as a promise. It's almost like asking for a puppy. I'm like, yes, please, I promise me I will do everything. I will do everything I can. And that's how it started, really. So, and then what do you do when you literally have nothing other than what your ideas are and how excited it is? There's one thing that I always went through is my nostalgia. Right, because that's what these burgers are purely made out of. Is just the
because that's what I wanted to get into. Is the inspiration behind them? Like, what do you get that inspiration from?
And I always say this to anybody who wants to start businesses with us: do what you know. Whatever business it is, just do what you know. Do what you like. Do what what you're into and stuff like that. And for me at that time, I wanted a good burger.
Burgers, by the sound of it.
Yeah, and I was so confident. I was so more than confident that, like, if I'm like, oh man, if I bring these burgers to, because then you start thinking, there's no way these guys are not going to love it. They're going to love these burgers. It's going to be amazing, and I know how to do it, and so the first thing I had to do is like, right, I'm in it now. The landlord, a few days later, right, he still wasn't that nice to me, but he goes, right, you're in that kitchen. I don't want nothing to do with you. I don't want any of my staff taking orders at the bar. I don't want anything. You clean up yourself. That is your mess. That is your thing. Technically, I don't want you in here. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Nice to meet you too.
Good meeting. Good meeting. So I didn't care. I honestly didn't care. Because, you're going to have that anyway. You're going to come up with obstacles, didn't care. I didn't care at all. I just knew that I got a giant, I went to B&Q and I just pictured like how big the menu should be, about this big. And I got a piece of paper and I cut it into A5s. And I literally hand typed it on a computer, and I made it like rock and roll burgers because it was a really rock and roll bar. So I did like the Lemmy and the Slayer and the Sid Vicious for the spicy one. And this was, and it is a very American thing. Back in those days, it would have been not really so much name, but this was very unique to my thing. And also, because so many friends of mine were actually vegan and vegetarian, the whole concept was automatically inclusive of everybody. That was right off the bat.
Yeah, that's something that struck me, in your menu, is you cater for, specific diets and stuff. And I think, as time's gone by, nowadays, everyone is on some kind of specific diet, or, maybe for medical reasons or for health reasons or for fashion trend reasons. And I think that a lot of restaurants, and particularly in the bigger ones, I think I noticed there was some bad news recently about like Jamie Oliver's empire, like falling down. And I think that's an example of it. They don't tend to, they're very fixed in their like menus, and they don't tend to cater for some of these, new trends. And, you know, that is what is popular, and people want to come in and get a gluten-free burger, or they want to come in, they want to get a vegan dish. And
Yeah.
they don't want to be just given a plate of vegetables if they're vegans. Oh, there you go, have that.
No,
You know,
and
you need to be creative, I think. And that's, you know, I guess that's really important, right? So, I mean, is that something that you would say that you do, is you put that same effort into, you know, those sort of other, you know, types of cuisines?
absolutely. I always, my whole ethos with the place was not doing it to be, because when I started, and if I did anything vegan, right, even the vegetarian, even vegetarian customers were going, oh God, I'm not vegan. What are you not? You know, it was like, ugh, you know, they were visceral, really. Like you had from that end of having so much wide prejudice, which I always believe that if you start it with just awareness, small awareness, it will eventually catch on where it's not so scary anymore. You know, it's a very, it's just a different thing. But now you've got Weatherspoons, right? And you're gonna give them credit. I know they tried. They're trying to do a vegan burger, but they're calling it the Bleeding Vegan, which I think I'm kind of like, read the room, guys. Read the room.
I didn't know that. I haven't seen that. I'll have to look that up. That sounds hilarious.
Yeah, oh, it's hilarious. It's
Strange,
just going, it's the Bleeding Vegan, kind of, you know, but you know, at least it's trying, and again, that's what it is. It's making awareness. So you know, I'm not going to knock it. I just think it was like, whew, you know, and you know, and you do get a lot of people that are trying things out because of ethical reasons, for health reasons, or just the idea that they just don't like the taste of meat. So like what I've always done is I've never wanted anything to taste like meat. I just wanted it to taste good, you know, as far as my vegan veggie kind of thing goes. So, and it's also well fun to cook. It is you know, don't knock it, because one thing that I like to do is take classic dishes and make it vegan. I love doing that. You know, if you're a cook, don't be prejudiced against it. Have fun with it. You know, I made a French meat pie, which is a classic Canadian French tortilla that my meme was Canadian. And that every time that, and it's made with beef and pork, and it's about as French meaty as you can. But I made a vegan version of it, and it was amazing. I actually had like, it was amazing, you know. And I used to make Sunday dinners with it and stuff. So
yeah, I think that's really important, isn't it? Because I think a lot of restaurants look at these sort of like dietary requirements as like a secondary thought. And,
yeah,
you know, I think you can, you know, with a bit of thought and a bit of
just a bit of flair, you can
really create stuff that, you know, is, you know, attractive to even people that do eat meat. You know, like
exactly. Why ostracize what is now, what more people are doing now than anything, you know? And you can see, you know, when I go into restaurants, you can see, you know, the more you ostracize people, they gotta think that, you know, well, maybe you eat meat, but not your cousin or your niece that's gone to college, or not your auntie who's, you know what I mean? Like, you're ostracizing a group of people that you don't even know, that you could be.
And are you finding these, I mean, are you finding these sort of requirements becoming more and more popular now? So you're selling more. Are you seeing that increase the amount of like vegan burgers you're selling, or the amount of like gluten-free?
Yeah, what I've seen more than anything, I've always been vegan, veggie, meaty all the way. So like, if you open my menu, you close your eyes and you point, and logistically, it is a nightmare. So I'm not saying that everybody should do what I do. I do everything what restaurants would really just not do, and I recommend you doing that, because it can logistically be a nightmare. But what was I saying? When it comes to, what was the question again?
Now, I was asking if you've seen the requests for specific dietary requirements like vegan, etc. You know, increase over time.
Gluten-free, gluten not included, allergens have risen to a level that's just, you know, out of this world. It's really, and it's almost like, you know, a lot of people kind of scoff and go, huh, it's only a fad, you know. And, you know, who cares? It doesn't, like, some people think that it is. But again, you know, if you're going to scoff and go, ugh, we're not going to do that, then you're only just excluding more people to your, why exclude them? So what the only thing, it is, you know, it is tough, you know, because you have to explain. I mean, I've got technically 139 different burgers to make. And that could be, you know, and so we have ingredients, and I got ingredients from all around the world. You know, if I do a Dutch, so I do like a Dutch Indonesian satay burger. Well, I make sure that I get Indonesian chili sambal, Olek, right? That it comes from Indonesia. It's the right part. Yeah, it needs to go with the burger and stuff. But that's with peanut butter. You know, and if somebody says I have a peanut allergy, then, you know, obviously everybody's like, ah, you know, and this is what a lot of restaurants don't want to deal with, because then, you know, you're instantly, you're tightening up and you're going, oh my gosh, it's a peanut allergy. I don't know what to do and everything. It's just,
of course.
Just, if you go by the rules and you let everybody know exactly what is there. And if anybody is, you know, really tough on their, you know, if they're going to have a major allergic reaction, then we just don't recommend it. But we have to know about it.
Because I saw that with the gluten on the gluten-free stuff on your website. Like, you don't specifically say it's like totally gluten-free, because.
No, we never say, because we're not.
What is, right? what is?
Yeah. What you tell me what's going to be gluten-free? Yeah. Unless you are. Yeah, and then you were in catering, so I remember doing, and this was 11 years ago, even before everybody was talking about it. When I did my cookies, I knew somebody that couldn't have gluten, so I made these like macaroni type cookies from Africa, but it was like with coconut and blah blah blah. And I said that they were gluten free, but on the regulations of back then, they said you cannot sell gluten free. Say you're gluten free unless you are, and I remember making the cookies in my house, and I would literally like clean down like every single spot to make these, like literally forensics. It was like forensic, just to make these cookies, and I would do it before I would do the regular batch after, and then like have them covered and everything like that. And even then, it just wasn't good enough, because like the rules have changed so much now. You know, because you realize that, you know, if somebody's wanting to do retail, like if they wanted to sell, you still can't. I think you have to have a 100% gluten not included factory to sell.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be really, really stringent. Yeah.
Massively stringent, which of course, in these companies, you can never really grow to unless. No. You know, it's very tough, because you're only dealing with a very small percentage of people. Yeah, which is quite sad, but you know, it's also good for the few that can make it through. So what we do is we say we have gluten not included, and we say that we do have all of these ingredients, and it's, you know, and we're going to have to leave it over to you, because you're the adult. You're the adult with the person.
I think it's just I think it's an intelligent way to do it, because I mean, I actually have celiac disease in my family. Luckily, I haven't been sort of officially diagnosed, but I do suffer from some issues with it.
You can get it, yeah.
And I always get worried when I go into a restaurant, because I know I can get away and I can eat a little bit of bread, but it's not the greatest for me. I get bloated and stuff like that. My sister suffers terribly with it. But whenever I go into a restaurant, I'm always scared to say, actually, can I have gluten free? Because then I imagine that in the kitchen they go, oh, there's a gluten free. Yeah. Here, and I'm just like, I always feel bad, because I'm like, I'm the weekend, and it's like, oh, you're just one of those, are you? One of those people, right? Okay.
It's not anyway. But again, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You know, when you have something that was considered visceral and everybody was like, oh no, it's now the more normalized that you get it. I bet you can now, compared to what you did 4 years ago, you know, if you said I'm gluten-free 4 years ago, yeah, you would have rolling eyes. Like none of my staff even blink an eye over that. Yeah. They don't go in the back and go, oh my God, you know. Unless there was a huge group, then everybody panics, because then you have to, like, you know, because we do have a little grill that's gluten-free, but it's just, you know, and unless it's a big one, like a big massive meal, everybody sort of panics only just to get it out. But we don't have that sort of, you know, sort of thing.
No,
you know,
that's good to hear.
No, it used to be. It used to be. And, you know, people that are used to, like, you know, and we still get areas where, you know, because we also sort of have it where, because our menu is so bizarre and so big and so vegan, veggie, meaty, you know, whatever, we, every single order that they say, would you like your burger vegan, veggie, meaty? You know, and I also say vegan, veggie, meaty rather than meaty, veggie, vegan.
Quite
you
got
know,
a bit of a ring to it, actually. Yeah, I like it.
yeah, it sounds more fun. Yeah, so yeah, it's cool. It's
So
just, we are different.
So what I want to get into, talk on the subject of menu items. So what is your most, this is a mouth-watering moment, I guess. So what's your most popular menu item and why?
All right. I'm trying to get it beat, but since it's been put on, since barbecued pulled pork has come in onto the streets of Britain about 6 years ago.
Yeah, we love it now.
Oh, that's it. It is on everything. It's hilarious. I love the packages in supermarkets. Like they even got like pulled pork nachos and pulled pork. Everything's pulled pork.
Yeah, even the supermarkets are jumping in now. Yeah, I've seen all that.
Yeah, everybody's doing it. Well, funnily enough, my stepmother, my dad lived in North Carolina for many years. And North Carolina is where barbecued pulled pork comes from. And they're a very proud state to say that. So if you drive down the road and you'll see these big giant, like huge, like rusted barrels in the wood, and you would understand this because this is what you did, right?
Cool. I've had my experience in the barbecue industry, so yes, absolutely.
Yeah, right. You know,
the big old barbecues made from an old gas tank or something.
An old giant gas tank, yeah. That's what it was amazing. And so so my stepmother is about as southern as you were gonna get. She all talks like this and everything like that. She actually has brothers named Bubba Joe. So it's pretty cool. But I'm from the Northeast. It's a very different world.
Okay.
But what she did though is she showed me how to make a proper barbecue pulled pork, you know. So like we slow cook minimum for I don't know how many it was. I think it's 8 to 10 hours that we do. And you know, and we pull it ourselves and we do the slow cooking with the barbecue sauce and everything. So it is delicious. And then what we do is we put that on top of the burger. And then we use like a red Leicester melter because red Leicester cheese is actually really good melting cheese, really nice. Put that on top, steam it, not steam it, but you kind of melt the cheese down. And then you know those fried crunchy onions? We just kind of
very well, yes. Yeah,
it adds just a tiny little bit of sweet crunch to it. And then that with the barbecue and the burger, it kicks all other burgers off our menu. Like the second in line is our New England Yankee brisket. And that's our brisket, which
that's another kind of barbecue style one, right? So
it's a brisket's like a cheaper meat, and it's beef. And also don't forget, like we also do this vegan and veggie too as well, which is well fun because you're just going, okay, how do you make pork, you know, and vegan, you know?
Yeah.
The brisket, we obviously that's much more because that's a much tougher cut. But we let that like really, so we got like, you know, we sous vide that and like really let it go where it's nice and soft. And then we put American cheese, like, you know, the orange burger cheese.
Oh, I
tastes
do.
amazing on that. And then what we do is we take a jus. So we make like a beef jus on the side. So when you take the burger, you dip it in the jus and then take a bite.
That sounds like a very messy but very incredible experience.
Oh, it's so messy. But in America, we call it the French dip.
Okay, yes.
Because of the word jus, yeah. So we call it the French dip, which is usually they have beef and Swiss. But then they take that, like Arby's, it's a very classic, they call it the French dip. And they take it with the submarine roll, and then they kind of dip it in and then take a bite and stuff like that. But that's our second most popular. It's usually meat and cheese, you know.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's making the salad I had for lunch seem
I know, I'm on chicken and salad, or on my couscous, and I'm on my quinoa. That's literally what I'm trying to lose weight too as well. So. But it's a really fun
one as well, yeah.
I love the new rules that they want to put calorie counts on. I think they've chucked it out the window now. Have they chucked it out? Somebody told me that they're chucking it out.
I think some of the bigger chains might have to. I think maybe.
Yeah, I think like if you have a product that's going to be exactly the same size and exactly the same, you know, like if you're going to be like fast food, for instance, and you're going to have the same, you know, same size burger, same size thing, and stuff like that. but you can't do, how could you do gourmet French?
No,
You know, how are you going to tell a chef to say, oh, you know, you need to cut down this when they're throwing in extra cream? And if somebody wants to argue against it because they put extra cream and wine and butter in it, you know, you can't just really pin that down. So I think
I
a
mean,
lot of chefs
let's face
are
it.
on.
If you're eating burgers, you shouldn't really be counting calories. You know,
You know,
it's
that's
like
the thing.
it's a treat. It's a treat meal. You know, and it's not
It's a treat meal. That's what it is. We have so many like massive bodybuilders and athletes, right? So when they're done, because they know we make everything like every day. So, but it's funny because we do get a lot of athletes or runners. You know, like if you got like runners and stuff, they finish. They all just like literally beeline to ours and go,
That's it. Right?
you know.
You've got all the macros they need there.
Yeah, that's it. Like I can carb-tastic this. Oh yeah, I'm gonna carb, fat, and all of it, like all in one go now. So yeah.
So what would you say is the biggest sort of factor or decision? I mean, you've got 3 restaurants now, right? Obviously, I imagine you didn't start like that, right? You started with 1.
One bag in a frying pan. That's all I had.
So I mean, what would you say is the biggest sort of factor or decision, or maybe decisions that you've made that have really contributed to the success that you've seen, with Annie's Burger Shack?
From the beginning or from when we properly got a restaurant?
I guess if you look back and you think, I know generally in business you have these moments. I think certainly when I look back in any sort of thing I've done, where I think that was like a pivotal moment. It kind of changed everything. Whether it was like getting a new property off, or maybe doing a certain, coming up with a certain marketing strategy or something. Is there anything that you look back and think that's a big one that really helped me?
Yeah, it's interesting because I love business. I love how this business is always sort of you can never rush it anyway, can you really? But it's almost sort of like learning how to play guitar, and as soon as you find out how to do a new chord, it opens up a whole other area where you're going, oh, I can do this, and then you go down that route and stuff, along with all of your mistakes. I would probably say that a lot of the shift came from the marketing part of it. When if I was going to talk about what I did on my own from the beginning, right, which is, people are not going to come flooding in the beginning. You have to it needs to grow, and our business has always been organically grown in that way anyway. We're coming up to our 1,000,000th customer in Nottingham already. Yeah, it's crazy.
Anything to celebrate that, or?
Yeah, I don't know how to do that though, because we're still sort of very independent. So I don't want to like, do we toot our horn about this, or do we just kind of toot our horn in different areas, and in the right areas where you go, ooh, or maybe make a big thing out of it.
I mean, that's a huge milestone though. I mean,
it is a massive. It's an incredible. We got 150 staff now. It's just it's another world, and exciting. But I think it's when I know a good one. This is my favorite story is this, because coming from I went from the Angel. I tried out one in Oxford. It was too far away, and I was way too not experienced enough how to do something in that small, like on a distance level. So that didn't work out. Well, we get a place to
locations, securing new locations, right?
Location, and also because I was just so green. Nowadays, I could, we can go and, it's still hard, but it's like, when you go to support with you, it's a lot different. But we went up to a navigation, and so the navigation, we were starting to get that line now. Now, this was a pub that was out of town. People were lining out the door. I only had a grill this big and a grill this big, doing my veggie vegan on that side and my meaty on this side. And it gets to the point where they were like, it's going to be a 3-hour wait, and people were like, that's fine. And I'm like, no, that's not fine. You shouldn't be waiting 3 hours for food. You know what I mean? But because we were real ale anyway, it was fine.
I suppose you have got that benefit. Yeah, if the food's late, you've got all this real ale.
Yeah.
People forget how long it's
been. Oh, it's amazing. It's just when you come out with the burger and they're like, way, they're just just pissed and like really, really hungry, But like, I do give them all the credit because they stuck by me right from the beginning. But it was, yeah, so here we are, and we're just about to set up the restaurant here on Broadway. This is a landmark. This is like, to get to this point. And I met my business partner on there, and then we ended up getting from this point to that point to another point. And social media wise, Facebook was still fresh. This is 2012 about 2012, 2013. Yeah, it was definitely 2012 because we started in 2013 January, so it was right in the beginning. And so my naivety over the years of how many people that we were serving, you have no idea in those days. What you don't have, I didn't have any marketing analysis. I literally just went and knocked on doors and I just stuck my nose into as many places as I could do. Yeah, my accent kind of helped me out a little bit too there, and my tenacity, I guess. But it was the point when who does my social media still to this day is Loki, right? She's also a friend, but and again, we've sort of done this from scratch. We just said Annie's Burger Shack is moving from the Navigation to 5 Broadway and Nottingham. And under 10 minutes, we had 14,000 hits like that, all in one go. Amazing. Right? Wow. And I, in my very wide naivety, and I'm like, is that good? Look, he's in there. She goes, I don't think you have any idea what that just might have meant. It was literally, I had 2 19-year-old kids. No, sorry, Abby. She was young at the time. They were my managers at the time. We first jobs, and it was like, I had my mates and my friends' girlfriends and boyfriends coming in. My friends' kids were working for me, doing pot wash at the Nav at this point. Okay. So we was literally having no. So
it's kind of like a grassroots situation where you're like, right, kind of.
Absolutely, and it was, and when we opened, not having any clue what we were doing, we were so naive. And this is a 6,000 square foot space. It was a nightclub called Club Unique that got shut down. And it was kind of in an area that was at that point, a little bit sort of, you'd see a couple of needles on the street, and then you'd see a couple of the women, beating each other with their high-heeled shoes. It was that kind of 4 o'clock in the morning roughness, but which is kind of amazing. It still blows my mind how people come to us. It's not like that anymore. But it was pretty hardcore. And when we opened, we just had no idea on the population. There was a line down the street, people wanting to come in. One of the big things was how many, do we book these tables? Do we not book? We were still under the idea that a book and a notepad would have been fine to do booking, right? It's so naive. And we were 2 weeks in. So, and then people were like, well, why can't we book to get in? Okay. So then we were like, all right, well, we'll book out the whole restaurant. And then you had people wanting to walk in, having fist fights on the door because they couldn't get in. Oh. It was insane. There is a movie on it, actually, funnily enough. Somebody did make a movie on how we started. Yeah. Oh, wow. You can watch it's on the. We made it to the Flickers Festival, the International Film Festival. It was quite fun. But wow. It was. We were up there. We got out of 6,000.
What's that called? If people want to search that out, what's that called?
It's called Annie. I think it's on our website. If you go right to the bottom of the thing, and there's videos. That's Lace Market Media Group did this awesome. Whole thing and stuff. So that it's a cute story. I think it's me a long time ago, and it's just when I opened the tavern downstairs. So, but I mean that was it. We had literally no clue what we were doing, and then when we were that busy, we needed staff, and And we were grabbing kids walking down the street, and you'd see like a 16-year-old, and we'd be like, "Hey, kid, do you want a job?" And they're like, "You got any experience in the restaurant?" And you'd see the kid going, "Well, I worked in a buffet once." "Great, you're hired." Taking the menu, chucking it in his hand, "Get in here." It was literally to that point. And and this is what happens when you there are certain things that you just need to learn really quickly, and there's a lot of heavy things that you need to learn quickly if your business grows so fast, so incredibly fast. Obviously you're scrambling just to try and figure out what this business is, never mind
I think a lot of it comes down to what I pull from that is being bold as well, because there's a lot of people out there that might have an idea, and all of these things of potential setbacks to people, would someone necessarily be bold enough to go in and say, right, I'm just going to go for it with this big place. I'm going to go for it and just see what happens. And I think, you have to have those moments where you go from that one level and take things up to that next one. And sometimes it's not a gradual thing. It's like you have to and go, I can do this, and I think that's a wonderful example, of that.
And that was the whole thing, because coming from a little pub kitchen and going into it's an old lace factory, and I had the guy Adam, my mate who was doing the veggie grill, was painting and plastering. I was covered in sawdust. A small business, you have to pitch in, I had, and we still do. This is the thing about small business. Everybody still pitches in and does a million different jobs, which I am massively grateful for. But we did all our painting ourselves. We had to fix it up all ourselves. We just literally it had to have been done DIY. It was my mate who made I just happened to have a lot of talented people who were friends and willing to help.
Yeah, it sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah, and the scare, and please, and I always say this to anybody too, is when you end up making that step from that small step to a big one, it is petrifying. I forget now what it was like, but I do. Now that you say that, I remember that big leap of going, I don't know, what is this the right thing to do? What am I going to do? What if it fails? That's the biggest fear. If you go into something that's that big, where you have, I think the biggest fear is when you sign a lease and you sign something of contracted in. When you are contracted into something
legally, and it's like, ooh.
that's the fear. It's not. I think people would be way more fearless when you're not contracted into something. Sure. Because what have you got to lose? There's nothing to lose. You lose your business. If you lose, you lose. But if you, but I mean,
you're basically betting on yourself, really.
Yeah, but luckily, I've always been a good saver anyway. So I've always I've always had, I'm always massively big on going the what ifs, when's the what ifs, and having, you always keep enough aside, because it's contingency, you always have that. But in that way, then you get to the point okay, well, I've got this now. Shit, I need to do something with it. We need a bigger boat. It's ridiculous now that people are waiting 3 hours for a burger. When that turn, you sort of feel it when you're ready to go. Only just last year we've opened those other 2 ones, and this is how the business sort of goes. It's like a flowing river that doesn't stop, or to me, I like to call it a big tank. Yeah. Ours is more of a big tank, maybe not less, because it's just and you can't just take and turn it quickly. If you want to make a decision in this business, you can't just go like that, because the amount of work that it takes to just make that turn and change, is massive. But when we knew that we were ready to expand, I think it was putting together, knowing that operationally we know what to do a lot better now. I mean, we broke kids when we started. I mean, because we had we had kids in a fetal position in the corner rocking, because we'd put some kid that's never had a job before and call him a supervisor, you know, and they're getting screamed at by customers that are going, where is my you know, we just literally broke them, you know, not on purpose, just, you know, it just, we just didn't know, like, you know, and you learn how to sort of, you know, keep people in the jobs that they're good at. And if they're really good, and then they're ready to go up, we train them to get, you know, so much. So many.
I mean, with a lot of the restaurant owners I spoke to, that comes up consistently again and again. You know, having the right people around you.
All of having the right people around you.
I mean, what would you say are your sort of biggest?
Most important.
What would you say are your sort of biggest habit with regard to, you know, the success and growth of the restaurant? You know, these are the sort of things that perhaps you do regularly, time and time again, that you know helps you to consistently grow and kind of be, I guess, productive as well with what you're doing. Because it's a big undertaking, right? Running 3 restaurants. There's a lot that you have to kind of juggle. I can only imagine there's got to be some kind of strategies, habits that you have to employ to be able to do that, you know. So what would they be?
My business partner always says a really good. That was a great saying, and I always think I always keep it in mind. If a business isn't growing, it's shrinking. And it's a great line. It's a really good sort of thing to keep in the back of your mind. If you can never rest on your laurels if you want to keep this business a success.
Yeah.
You know, businesses you can't, you know, if you have something and then you sit and then expect it to kind of go on its own way, and you're not going to still do the work. Not saying that you don't need to change your own position, but the business needs to keep going. It needs to, you know, and we always do things that are a little bit not the same as what it's going to be interesting if we expand to see what we do, because we do street parties. So like where we are in Nottingham and Derby, we've got a street in the front, and we close down the whole street every year. We do like a big, we do like these big sort of things, and we have like you know, we get about a couple of thousand people who come and they sit out in the. It's really nice, you know, and we've had washouts, but still didn't stop people from coming and everything. We do different things. We do things that are
just keeping that focus, I guess, on trying to innovate. Really sounds like to me.
And it's and it can be, you know, and literally right now where we are, you know, our operations team, you know, is fantastic. You know, my shoulders can kind of rest because now you know, if you know that they're doing well, then you can turn your head and do other things. Our marketing team, you know, we it's like in the middle of shifting from something that we were used to working on so hard on. One has just gone from 1 to 2 very different almost totally different other businesses. And now we've just like, almost like gremlins. It's just literally, now we've got 3 almost overnight. And now we're going, and we don't have that marketing background. We've just been creative on knowing how to do things in our own ways, which in a way has worked with us fantastically.
But I mean, you know, just going ahead and getting stuff out there. I think that's, you know, that's the important thing, really.
And
the amazing food and stories and all that kind of stuff is just so important, you know.
Absolutely.
I mean, what I want to know is there's probably a lot of people watching this who are probably thinking about, you know, maybe in the future opening their own restaurant, or, you know, getting some way into their own business in the food industry. What would you give to someone that's considering opening a restaurant, or considering trying to maybe approach a grumpy landlord to open to steal their kitchen so they can open it? What
well, it's the old cliche. I just think you have to, you know, it's I think if you're starting it from scratch, which I've given this advice to a lot of people, you gotta be, there's a few things actually. You gotta be prepared to, like, if you have a partner, for instance, you know, they gotta be just as willing to know that you're not going to be there for 70 hours of the, you know, or you might not show up for 3 days, you know, because you've been working so hard, you know, and you've got to have that. So that's a question always ask yourself of, you know, if you have a partnership, Are you prepared to put the work in? You've got to.
Oh, the others around you prepared not to see you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just kind of, yeah, that's it. Like, and the other one, which is I got from, there was a woman in business thing. We ended up, I got some award or something like that those years ago. And there was this woman who was there who said something that was incredibly, it struck a chord with me more than anything, is that if you're going to start a business, whatever you do, you can only ever be 80% as good as what 100% can be. So what that means is that I didn't invent the burger, nor more than anything like that. But I never copied anybody. I've always done my thing,
right.
So what you see people doing is when they go, oh, Auntie's Burger Shack, I'm going to copy her. And then they try to like literally copy and paste some of these people. It's amazing, and I'm flattered for it. But if you're going to copy another business, you will only ever be 80% as good as what it could be, if that makes sense. So in other words,
I understand. So if you try and emulate instead of trying to be creative yourself and create something new for people, you're never going to be below that one that you're trying to copy.
But it's going to be something out of your own mind. It's going to like blue sky it yourself. Just go, oh my God, this would be amazing, and make it your own. And it's not like, and it also will make you feel more comfortable going forward in your own mind in your business. I can't imagine anybody who wants to cut. It's a bit seedy, I think, to go in and go, not saying this is not the same of going, I think this business has a great model, and we should go and see what we could do with this model. That's a very, I think there's certain things that businesses do that are fantastic that helps out other businesses. Yeah. That's a fantastic thing. You're not ripping them off. What I mean is like, if you got somebody who's doing something that looks exactly the same and it's, I don't know.
Nothing's gone into it, yeah.
It's Annie's Burger Shack. You're not going to go, I'm going to call it Danny's Burger Shack. And a really good example was I had two landlords at the time in the navigation where I used to be, right? And I had my menu there. By that time, we had a print, and I supported the pub as well, like massively supported the pub, because they were fun. The pub as a business was really, really good with giving me the opportunity to be in the thing. So the two landlords, however, I have a thing with grumpy landlords. I don't know what it was. They just couldn't do it.
I think they're quite funny.
I think what happened is when we started and it started getting busy and they realized it wasn't them who got the people through the door, then they got a little bit jealous, Yeah. And I say that.
You hold all the cards then, don't you?
Oh, they did not. They really didn't like me in there. And the last two guys that kind of wanted me out, which you may have to be prepared for, if you do this sort of type of thing and it's not your own, is that you're going to work with other people within that space. So like if you wanted to go into a pub or if you want to go into a business with somebody, don't do it with four of your mates. If you think that you're going to,
the relationship's going to continue the same way.
Yeah, exactly. And because if you're going to be prepared to invest into a business as well, you're going to be prepared to not make anything for 3 years. So the tiny little bit that you're going to get, you're going to split that with four of your friends.
Right. Yeah.
Woo,
so you better love your craft, basically.
Yeah, and you better do exactly the same jobs that you're going to be doing in the amount of hours, because the one that's going to go on holiday for 2 weeks is not going to be liked by the other three. But then the guy.
Sorry, continue.
Oh, sorry. Well, I was just saying about the originality. What they did was when we left, they kept my menu and it said Annie's Burger Shack, and they took a piece of tape and they covered Annie's and then just put Navigation Burger Shack. And They used my menu. Yeah, they properly ripped it off. They lasted 3 months. They just went, they lasted, and that's a really good example, Don't copy.
You
make it your own.
it's more than just what it says on the menu at the end of the day, you know, with these things, you know. It's about the delivery, it's about the it's about the inspiration, it's about the soul really that goes into the food, you know, cliche.
Exactly.
But you know, if you're not enthusiastic about what you're selling, you're just trying to rip someone off, you're not going to have that same flair, that same ability to innovate, and you know, the same excitement behind what
how are
you're
you
doing,
going to go forward if you feel like you're cheating already from the beginning? Where are you going to get the passion from?
Yeah.
Unless it's just something about money. Yeah, don't copy. Don't copy. Make it your own. It's amazing, but just make it
what's next for your brand? What's next for Annie's? Is there anything coming we can look out for?
Well, now that I'm kicked out of the kitchen and behind the bar, oh, I'm terrible. I wouldn't even get hired myself. But that's a good thing, you know, because my chef is way better than me. All of my chefs are better than me now. So like at the moment right now, it's quite we're in an exciting stage at this point where from a business point of view, we don't really have there's one thing that we've always had in us. You know, you have there's a long-term plan that I would love this business to do. And whatever happens where I come in or how it goes, it doesn't really matter. But I grew up in the States. I grew up in Rhode Island where the first oldest restaurants were. So the restaurants that I would go in, my grandfather took my mom to, you know, and, you know, my parents we would have gone on family meals to these restaurants. So and loads of them are all based on that very 1930s, 40s, and 50s-esque sort of type thing. Oh, Rhode Island loves nostalgia, you know, and it doesn't matter. And also the different the countries that you would have for the different foods and everything like that. Which is why I love Nottingham for that reason. But there is a whole, just something where you get these old restaurants, and Britain, unless you can find the old fish and chip shop that sort of is stuck in there.
There's a few, but yeah, they're a dying breed. There's like the pioneer kind of stuff.
Yeah. You know? And it's really sad considering how much Britain loves nostalgic things. It's you know, unless you
people like you bring over better food from across the pond, and then we stop.
We're ruining it. Like the Americans coming over here taking our. It could be actually. It could be. It's all our fast foods. You know, it's all our naughty
products. So now, you know, we don't get anything with our own stuff.
You know,
the British are famous for liking food that isn't their own, really.
Yeah, but you know, that's what makes it great. That's American too, as well. You know, how much was it like when I first moved here? I remember asking for a butternut squash, and somebody sent me to the Robinson's orange squash section. You know, because nobody knew what squash was. You know.
So what's your view then? Is it to try and bring that nostalgic kind of feeling to the UK? I mean, sort of. Is that what you want to try and do? Is it create sort of a lasting legacy with the brand, or?
Yeah. I would love to have this restaurant be one of those restaurants that would last for years, you know, and that the kid that came in here when they were 8 years old, and then when they're in their whatever age and they got kids and then they bring their kids in, you know, I would love to be that, like that sort of institute, you know, I would love to be like, oh God, yeah, that they've been around for 30 years, you know, that would be an amazing goal to have that sort of wonderful, absolutely. You know, it's a wonderful thing. So it's something that I want to keep as a lasting legacy. Many businesses that you see today that go into business, especially restaurants, they last 7 years. They try to shoot up for the money. They sell it all off, and then boom, that's it. And then it doesn't matter if they go bust, you know. And you're seeing a lot of that. What you're seeing a lot, which I hate seeing businesses close. I cannot. It's a horrible feeling. watching any businesses close around you. Even if you don't like their food, it doesn't matter. It's horrible to see.
Yeah, no, because that's someone's work and effort.
You just know how much work and people's jobs.
I think anyone in business knows that everyone's had their failures in life.
Yeah.
When you talked about your cooking experience earlier, you feel that pain for other people, but
it hurts. Well, yeah, and I've tried opening another restaurant before too as well, and it didn't work out, and that was a painful one. But because of that happening though, it's nothing better than learning from your mistakes. Right, yeah.
Completely.
And it's so cliche, but it's so true. There's a reason why everybody says it.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't met any restaurant or business owner for that matter that hasn't got a story of chaos behind it.
Whoa.
Chaos and woe.
Chaos and woe.
I think that's, that really, at the end of the day, you can read as many books as you want. You can talk to as many people as you want, but learning from your own experience and progressing down that river, like you said.
Yeah.
Something you have to embrace as a business owner. So we come to the end. So thank you so much for sharing everything about Annie's. I think one of the things that stood out for me in the discussion we was having was that you've genuinely got a real passion behind what you do, and I think that comes out. You're so enthusiastic, and I think that's an important lesson for anyone that's listening to learn if they are considering starting a restaurant or even any kind of brand. Is you've got to be so passionate about it, because that's going to be the thing that drives you through those hard times. That passion, that belief in that you're selling something that means something like in your heart. Thank you so much for your time. Just before we close, so we can find Annie's Burger Shack at anniesburgershack.com, and you're on all the social medias. Where can we find you?
On them all. Yeah, our Facebook is fantastic. And I have to give low-key all credit for the social media, and Chili, who makes all of our artwork. They are an amazing team. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Okay,
check
great.
it out.
Well, thanks very much for your time, Annie, and thanks everyone for listening or watching.
Yay!
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Bite Britain. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Bite Britain, and also subscribe to us and watch the video version of this interview on YouTube, so you can get updates on future releases and, more importantly, exclusive opportunities to win prizes from our awesome guests.